Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel as Mike's Talks and Thoughts here. Back again with another video for you guys today, and today we are finally here with the Stranger Things Volume 2 review here. So we only have 2 episodes in this volume, but wow, they were so jam-packed with so much stuff to unravel here. Almost 4 hours of content here, a lot to discuss with you guys. I'm going to be having this be in a similar format to what I did for the Volume 1 review. I'm going to link that down in the description below. If you've not seen that, definitely check out that video first and then come back and watch here. I also want to be giving a little bit of a spoiler warning here. I'm going to be going into major spoilers here for Volume 2, talking about both episodes here. And another thing before we get started here, again, we are going to be doing a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to be entered and be a part of that, definitely hit the subscribe button down below. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. Definitely helps me out here on the channel. But without further ado, let's get into these 2 episodes and review them. So first here we have the episode number 8 titled Papa. Of course, referring to Dr. Brenner here, and let's just unpack everything that happens in this episode. So the first thing that we see in this episode, we get to see, it starts basically off where episode 7 ended with Nancy in Vecna's trance here, and we get to see Vecna, toying with Nancy a little bit and shows her what's going to happen, the vision. And of course, the vision is that the Upside Down is leaking into the real world, kind of foreshadowing what's going to be happening moving forward here. And basically him saying to tell Eleven that I'm coming as a warning, basically showing everyone what's going to happen. And just crazy to see. That was an epic moment. Next here in the Russian storyline, we get to see Hopper, Joyce, Murray, and Dimitri here. After their whole sort of escape plan here, we get to see them, exploring the creatures that the Russians have in the facility. They don't just have the Demogorgon, they have Demogorgons, Demodogs, and pieces from the Mind Flayer, the particles from the Mind Flayer. So I think that was definitely interesting to explore how they have a lot more than we initially thought, and seeing how just involved the Russians are in this story. And finally here, let's cut back to Nina, because we got the huge revelation in Volume 1 that Eleven is going to have her powers back, and we get to see just by her strength how strong she has become. She pretty much has her powers back to full strength here, and it's amazing to see. Something that they've been working towards all season, and it finally pays off here. Next, here it's moving to the Cali crew. We didn't get to see the Cali crew in episode number 7, but here in episode number 8. And this was one of my favorite scenes, just because of how emotional it was. It was the Mike and Will scene in the back of the Surfer Boy pizza van as they're going to find Nina and trying to locate Eleven here. We finally get to see Will's painting here of, what we were waiting for all season, what was in the painting. And we get to see it is Mike, Will, Dustin, and Lucas all playing D&D and fighting a monster. And we get to see, Will's interpretation of Mike and the group as like the heart and the core and kind of the thing that holds everyone together here. I think it was just so beautiful, and we can really see when Will's talking, referencing Elle, he's kind of referring to himself, and you can see just how sad he kind of is, talking about how different he is. And you can definitely see Jonathan senses that as he's looking in the rear view mirror at them. But yeah, I love the painting. It was an amazing painting. I think it did such a great job, and we get to see how meaningful Mike being the heart of the group means later on in the volume here. And then now moving back to the Nina project, we get to see Brenner here, and he's talking about how number 1, or Henry Creel, or Vecna here, is splitting the dimensions and they're making them into one. He uses the pencil as an explanation here to Eleven. He shows how if you put enough cracks in the pencil and then it's going to bust through like a dam. That's basically what Vecna is doing here, putting cracks in or opening gates, which will then in turn burst open into the real world here. And I think it's just a crazy explanation. You know, we get to see how Brenner saw 11. He saw everything that happened at the massacre, and he was trying to hone in on those powers and trying to have 11 locate Henry all those years. And unbeknownst to him, open the portal back so Henry could get in. And it's crazy, you know. We think all this time in the season 1 how Brenner is searching for, you know, just the upside down and these creatures, but in real fact, he was always searching for Henry all along because he knew that he was sent into the darkness by 11 at the massacre at Hawkins' lab. And then after that whole revelation with Brenner and 11, we get to see 11 here, and she goes and she's able to use her powers here, and she's able to spy on the Hawkins group and kind of see what their plan is to take down Vecna here. You know, they got this whole elaborate scheme of ways to take down Vecna, but, you know, without 11 there, how good is this plan going to be? It's going to be one that, you know, they're shooting for the fences here, but 11 using her powers, able to kind of get some insight of what's going on without being there in person. And continuing on here with the Nina project, we see Brenner and Owens here. They are arguing over 11 whether to stay or leave the facility. You know, 11 wants to leave the facility because she knows that her friends need her, and Owens is wanting to give Elle that choice. But Brenner here, you know, being as controlling as he is, he wants 11 to stay. He wants 11 to, you know, hone in more on her power. She's not ready yet. And he explains to her how Henry, or one, whenever he kills, he doesn't just kill, he consumes anything that that person ever had or ever knows, becomes a part of Henry. So he becomes stronger and stronger, as we know, with each life he takes, because that person ultimately becomes him. And he explains just how dangerous he can be, and how 11 is not ready for the fight back at Hawkins, and how Hawkins will fall. As I previously mentioned here, we saw 11 looking in on the Hawkins group, and now we get to finally see their plan sort of come to fruition here as they go to the war zone to get supplies and gear up for the fight against Vecna here. We see them going in, and we see the confrontation with Jason here, Jason and Nancy. This was something that was teased as Volume 2 was on its way of coming out. They were leaking pictures here, and we saw the one of Jason and Nancy here, and we see the confrontation of how, you know, Jason is, you know, going after the Hellfire Club, and Mike's in the Hellfire Club, and Nancy's just trying to play it off, you know, also saying that she's scared. But we know that they are gearing up to face Vecna here in the Upside Down, and, you know, Jason butting his head in where it shouldn't be. And it ultimately leads to what happens later on in the volume. Moving back in here to the Russian storyline for this episode, we get to see them finally escaping the prison, and we see Yuri in his helicopter here. So we finally get a little bit of a glimpse of how they are going to get out of this situation here. And, you know, definitely going to be a factor here moving forward with Yuri in his helicopter. And next here, we finally get to see Brenner double-crossing Owens here. You know, I talked about how Brenner and Owens had that argument here over 11 staying or going, and ultimately, you know, keeps Owens locked away so that he can manipulate 11. But, you know, she's not falling for it this time. But he ends up injecting her with something to make her sleepy, and, you know, wants to keep her at the facility. But at this time, the government is finally there. So the government, you know, in Volume 1 was going after 11 because of all the death that they were seeing, and eventually were able to get the coordinates to the Nina project, and they were able to go in and, you know, kind of take down all of the men that were stationed in there. And we see Brenner, he finally is able to escape. Owens, you know, is in there with Sullivan and is talking, and Brenner, you know, is running out with 11, but they have the helicopters there, and the helicopters are able to get a lot of good shots in on Brenner. I believe they hit him 5 times here. And he just goes crazy, you know, Brenner just trying to run away as fast as he can. No match for the helicopter here. And as we see, they are talking with Sullivan, the guys in the helicopter, on whether or not they should shoot 11 or keep 11 for questioning. And he ultimately says to shoot her. But before they can do that, the Surfer Boy pizza van comes up, and we get to see Mike, Will, Argyle, and Jonathan, kind of saving the day here, causing a little bit of a distraction enough for Elle to use her powers here. We get to see her powers at the fullest extent here that we've ever seen them in the show. She just goes crazy, manipulates and uses her powers on the helicopter here, and ultimately, destroys the helicopter and everyone else down below it. It's just crazy to see. And then we finally get to see the reunion here with Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle, especially Mike and 11 and Will and 11. I think that was just such a great scene here. Really powerful. We've been waiting for this reunion. They haven't seen 11 since episode 3 here. So I think that was just so amazing to see. I was literally looking forward to that as a start of volume 2 here. And ultimately, this episode ends with the final conversation between 11 and Brenner here. Brenner keeps asking 11, I want you to understand. And 11 doesn't give him the closure that he wants, but she gets the closure that she needs. And she says goodbye as, Brenner famously goes out in Breaking Bad fashion. I've been seeing that all over the internet here. People memeing how Brenner went out similar in fashion to the Breaking Bad ending here. So if you've seen that, you definitely know what I'm talking about here. But a solid episode here. I really liked Papa here. Kind of what it was titled. A lot about Brenner in this episode. The Nina Project really takes control of this episode, but we get to see, the makings of the war beginning here in Hawkins with the group, and we get to see how the Russians are going to be, fitting in with the storyline as, they've seen the monsters and they're going to try and help 11 out here. And now let's move in here to episode number 9, the piggyback, the one that you guys are probably all waiting for, the 2.5 hour final episode of Stranger Things. Just an insane episode. So much to unpack here for you guys in this volume 2 review here. Easily the longest episode of Stranger Things we've ever had. And wow, let's just unpack everything that happened in this episode and give my closing thoughts at the. So we first start out here with the Russian storyline for this episode, and we get to see Joyce and Hopper finally able to kind of reconnect and talk and share their thoughts and open up with each other, which is great to see after the journey that Joyce and Murray had been through to go and get Hopper in Russia in the first place. As that is going on, we get to cut back to the Cali crew here, who we see 11, talking about Max and how she's going to be bait for Vecna and how she is going to piggyback off of Vecna to get into Max's mind here. Where the episode gets its title here, 11 is going to piggyback off of Vecna to get into Max's mind here, and they're going to have like a mind fight. And I love Argyle in this, how, makes that joke about the mind fight. But they need to find a sensory deprivation tank. They talk about going to a motel, but they need a lot of salt here. And we get to see Argyle come into the rescue here. He knows where they can get the salt, and it is because of the Surfer Boy pizza chain. And we get to see them bribing one of the employees here to where they're able to get in and use the salt and use the tank in there. And just so amazing. Coming in so clutch for 11 here as she is able to start off in this fight and finally get prepared for once in this season to finally confront Vecna one-on-one. We also get to see in the earlier part of this episode Lucas, Max, and Erica initiating phase number 1 of the big plan here. There's 4 phases I will be going over. And phase 1 here, it's finding Vecna here, going into the Creel house and finding Vecna. So as I was saying before in the previous episode, Papa here, we get to see the Russians, or the Russian group, I should say. They're going to be going back into the prison here. We finally get to see, their plan here. They were trying to go with the helicopter to go back, but then they realize when they make the call here, they were using a phone, and they were able to get in contact with an agent who talks about, the girl fighting the evil in Hawkins, and they know that's Elle, and they're able to come up with a plan to break back into the prison so that they can go and take down the monsters that are in there, because they know everything is connected. The upside down, everything is connected. When you go after one, you go after all, and that is the way that they're going to be able to help El so far away. And we get to see how this plan really goes to shit when the Russians, their gunfire opens up where all the creatures were, and they're getting slaughtered and murdered by these creatures here, all the demo creatures, including the particles from the Mind Flayer here, and making it back in. Crazy to see in this Russian storyline. Next here, we get to see finally phase 2 of the plan of Max, becoming this initial bait here for Vecna, and we get to see El getting set up in the Surfer Boy Pizza as it's time to go and explore Max's mind here. And after the group finds out about Max, finally taking the initial bait here, it's time for the Go Eddie Munson to shine here. Phase 3, of course, is Eddie playing his guitar to lure the demo bats away from the Creel house so that Nancy, Steve, and Robin are able to enter. And Eddie here shines with a legendary performance, shredding the guitar to Master of Puppets here by Metallica. What a great song, and I already know this song is going to blow up like crazy, as Running Up That Hill did by Kate Bush. That is going to be great here to see Metallica getting more love here. And this was just an absolutely legendary performance. Dustin there by his side as Eddie just shreds his guitar like a legend he is. Next here, moving back into the Creel house story. I just talked about Eddie here, but moving into the Creel house before anything can happen in the real world here. In the real world Creel house, we get to see Jason confronting Lucas here. He's able to make his way in and is able to point the gun at Lucas here, and he thinks he's behind everything, and Lucas is trying to explain what's going on, but Jason's just not listening here, and blaming Lucas for everything that's happening with Max at this moment. And then this here is pretty much the climax here of the battle between Vecna here. Before the whole El and Vecna battle can commence here, we see just how much danger everyone is in. Eddie and Dustin and the demo bats is getting out of hand. They're starting to find their way into the trailer. Eddie lured them away from the Creel house so that Steve, Robin, and Nancy can get in, but now they're invading his trailer here, and we get to see Eddie. He lets Dustin go back into the real world through the portal here, but he wants to stay and drive them away here as he rides his bike. We get to see Hopper being attacked here by the demo creature in Russia here, and we get to see Steve, Nancy, and Robin as they're trying to make their way up. They get attacked by the vines here from Vecna, and we see just how much danger everyone's in. It's really crazy to see. This is, of course, like the climax, like I said, of everyone being in so much danger. Max is still possessed at this point. El and Vecna, of course, are trying to battle with each other here, and at the snowball here in Max's memory, Vecna manipulating Max's happiest memory here. And shit is really going to hit the fan here any moment. So at the snowball confrontation here, as Vecna is looking to finally take Max here, 11 comes in and saves the day, and he's like, calls her out, and 11 tries to keep Vecna at bay, but then Vecna overpowers 11 here and sends her into the Creel house with the red fog here that we've infamously seen in the episode Dear Billy here. So we get to see El finally being attached to the vines here, as Vecna is finally revealing to El everything that happened in the Upside Down. El tries to talk to Vecna here and say that Papa is dead, and try to convince him that he is not the monster, that Papa was the monster, and that is not the case at all for Henry here. Vecna reveals everything that happened when 11 sent him to the Upside Down here in 1979 at the Hawkins Massacre. He believed that he was being sent to his death or purgatory here, but then you see how he talks about how he was in a realm unbeknownst to mankind, with all these different creatures, and we get to see the particles here that eventually form in the Mind Flayer here. And we get the big reveal here that Vecna's been behind everything. He's the controller of everything in the Upside Down. While these creatures have been there before Vecna arrived there, and many believe that those creatures have been there ever since the beginning of time, he was able to finally, manipulate, control, and shape it into what he thought was his own vision. As like the shadow monster here, we get to see, the drawing that Henry has, and we get this big reveal that he's been behind everything. Everything that we've seen in the show is connected back to him, and I thought that was really great. A lot of people wanted the Mind Flayer to kind of be its own separate thing, but I like it, man. I like how they're all connected together. I mean, that's what the Upside Down is. Everything's connected. When you hurt one, you hurt all. And next here, probably the most powerful scene in the entire show, meaning so much here to the story. Max, is being Vecna at this point. She's almost done for, and we get to see Elle fight back with the power of Mike's love here. Mike is able to, confess everything that he's been feeling, his love for Elle, and Will, talking him up that you're the heart of the group, show why you mean so much, and show Elle how much she means to you, and just this talk about, the love that he has for her, and how he can't lose her, and how she has to continue to fight. It's able to give her the strength, the ultimate strength here to get to Vecna before Vecna can fully complete everything that happened with Max here. But with Max, it's crazy. We see Jason and Lucas fighting at this point after I had already mentioned the confrontation that they've had. And, Max here, her bones, I believe both her arms and one of her legs are just snapped here. So almost fully Vecna. And we can see how her eyes are just pretty much, she's blind. She can't do anything at this point. But 11 here is able to keep the monster here at bay. And we get to see here just an epic scene with Steve, Nancy, and Robin. As Elle is able to overpower Vecna, he's, releasing everyone from the vines. And Steve and Robin here shooting the fireballs at Vecna here, burning him. And then Nancy shooting him with a shotgun was such an epic scene. I love the cinematography for that scene. And then in Russia here, they're able to finally lure all the monsters into the pit, where Murray is able to be a badass and use the flamethrower on them all. It's really great. And we get the one-on-one confrontation between Hopper and the Demogorgon here. It's such a beautiful scene here with the sword. I really thought Hopper was going to light the sword on fire first, but I digress. That was such a great scene here with Hopper in the slow motion, and Elle fighting, and like I said, them kind of taking out Vecna in the attic. It's really great to see. One of my favorite scenes from this episode. But now here, after I've talked about, the huge battle that we've seen between, Vecna, winning here, and then 11 being able to somewhat hold him at bay, but it does not come without any cost here. As we get to see Eddie is overpowered here by the demo bats. He stood there and stood his ground, and he fought. He didn't run away. He supported the town, who even hated him. And it was just such a great thing to see Eddie go out like a hero. Duffer's continuing their trend of killing off likable characters before the end of the season that they're introduced in. I predicted Eddie was like a 7 out of 10 for dying. At first, I was really thinking he was going to die, and then I kind of second-guessed myself, and then they went through with it. So that was crazy. And finally here, the biggest moment here, especially for the story here, Max, we find out it was clinically dead for 1 minute here, as 11 is able to sort of revive her back in a little bit of time, but without consequences here, as the fabric is ripping here between the two dimensions. The Upside Down is finally going into the real world, as the 4 portals are able to open here, and we get to see how Jason is just fucking disintegrated by these opening himself in half, and going throughout the entire town. They blame it on an earthquake here, but we know what happened. And crazy. We hear 22 deaths were recorded here, but of the ones we knew, Eddie. But of course, they do not record Eddie as dead at this point. They still think he's missing. Jason, and then whoever else in Hawkins here. Just a crazy, crazy sequence to see here. And wow, we get to see the aftermath here. They hold a donation drive for all the families here, and we get to see Dustin talking with Eddie's uncle, and that was such an emotional scene here. I really love that scene. It was so powerful between the two of them, their characters. Just reminiscing about Eddie this season, and Dustin talking about how Eddie went out like a hero, and giving him the guitar pick. It was so sad. I just absolutely loved Eddie. So after the events, 2 days later here, the Cali crew is able to finally make their way over to Hawkins here, reunite with everyone that's over there. Such a bittersweet scene, seeing them all together again for the most part here. But the scenes that really got me was when they went to the cabin here, and we get to see Hopper and Eleven reuniting. I absolutely love that scene. We've been waiting for it all season. She talks about keeping the door open 3 inches, which a lot of people pointed out that they noticed that early on. It was so great, the interaction that those two had, and Joyce coming back as well. It was so heartwarming seeing them come together again as a group. That's what you want to see. Every one of them come together and be together. That's what makes Stranger Things so good. A lot of people were complaining how they were separated all season here. I was kind of in that camp as well, but when they were finally able to reunite, it was just so powerful. And when Stranger Things is at its best, when they're working all together here. So like I said, they were doing the donation drive here for any families that were affected here, and we get to see the reuniting of the groups here, but we get to see the upside down realm or particles here raining down onto Hawkins, and Will here, of course, being back in Hawkins, is able to sense Vecna and says how he's not going to stop until he takes everyone. And we get to see just the upside down leaking into the real world here. And that's where they end it for the season. I was hoping that there was going to be a post-credit clip like they did for season 3, but we did not get that this time. I'm hoping season 5 here can come out end of 2023, but more than likely it's going to be 2024. I'm so ready for it. This has become one of my favorite shows of all time. I absolutely loved both of these episodes. I thought they were great. I will go more in depth with everything that I really liked and some stuff I didn't like in my season review when I do the full season here. But here for volume 2, I really liked it a lot, man. Such a great season here. The volume was incredible. Really lived up to the hype to me. I know some people I saw were a little bit disappointed. But like I said, I will go a little bit more into crazier details when I do my full-on season review of the positives and the negatives here for the season. But overall, you guys finally get to see all my thoughts here on all the episodes. That's it, 9 episodes for Stranger Things as we wait for season 5 here. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love talking Stranger Things and TV with you guys. I hope you guys are doing okay. Definitely take it easy, take care, and peace out.